When a game launches and the first thing that everybody talks about is how well optimized it is, you know there's a problem. Out of all the things it's possible to praise a game for, the usual suspects seem to be making quite a big deal about how well Prey runs out of the box. Now, it is a sad commentary on the state of game development that a product working as intended on day one is newsworthy. But it also betrays a fundamental problem with the core product itself, namely that outside of a few gimmicks, there ain't nothing here, folks. Let's start off with the gameplay premise. Corporate scientists have discovered a way to harness the abilities of a mysterious and powerful alien species. They hope to use the knowledge they gain from rigorous testing and experimentation to create super beings with the capacity to manipulate space-time, learn instantaneously, shapeshift, and extend human lifespan indefinitely. But something has gone wrong on Talos 1. You see, the aliens, they've escaped. They've taken over the station, and it's up to you, the augmented hero, to save the world or leave it to its fate.
I'd probably do the same thing.
If that all sounds familiar to you, that's because it's the setup for every overhyped space shooter released in the past 15 years. Simply put, if you knew where I was going the moment you heard the words corporate scientists, you'll know where this game's plot is headed 5 seconds after you figure out that stopping galactic conquest and prey boils down to flailing around some craftsman tools and maintaining a steady supply of buckshot to tie up loose ends. As a point of fact, this may be the first game I've played in recent memory featuring the illusion of choice where I rectified every narrative dichotomy on principle rather than the slightest investment in the world or the people in it. If there was an interesting character in this game, it was killed off by a typhon and flushed out of an airlock long before anybody had a chance to pick up the corresponding PDA and review the audio log. Now, to give credit where credit is due, Arcane did do a few things here that are worth noting. First of all, they did their best to get out of the player's way when it comes to navigating the playspace. You see, with a lot of space shooters, you're confined to the developer's direction as you travel from objective to objective. You follow the predetermined path in the predetermined sequence of events, and that's that. Here, you have the power to negotiate each mission as you see fit. In this respect, it's kind of like Deus Ex. You play the game how you want to play it. They also implemented realistically timed missions. You see, if you save somebody or make it to a certain part of the game to trigger an event, the time allowed typically fits the context of the objective. So, if someone is dying of a chronic condition, you have time to save them that corresponds with the condition that they have and the events that led up to their present predicament. It adds a sense of urgency and immersion that's missing from the more artificially timed and initiated missions that we typically find in other games, where you can backseat things indefinitely or where you have an artificially short time frame to complete things. The crafting and loot system here is also pretty well done for what it is. Instead of putting the player in some type of crafting UI every time they want to make something, players insert junk items into a recycler and convert them into raw materials for use in a fabricator. All of this is done in the game, and it elevates the junk collection to a tier slightly above the usual sell for gold unless for upgrade format we typically get everywhere else. Moreover, there are no useless interactive props in this game. Just about everything that isn't bolted down to the floor can be recycled into base materials or repurposed for combat and platforming. Everything here has value. Unfortunately, that's about all the things they did right here. The combat is below average at best. Now, again, I want to give credit where credit is due. I played through the game on the Nightmare mode, and instead of boss buffing every enemy in the game and nerfing the players so far into oblivion they're forced to reload the game every time a dialogue-wielding NPC parts its lips, they actually created a balanced game mode that provides a modest challenge without descending into the unmitigated tedium that is common elsewhere. The problem is that this all gets very old very quickly. You see, once you've run into the first taste of combat in the opening sequence, you've seen all there is to see. Sure, there's technically some 15 weapons in the game and about as many enemy types, But that doesn't really matter when more than 2/3 of the weapons are useless 90% of the time, and the Galactic Goo Gang has about as much ferocity in combat as Jeb Bush during a campaign rally. But don't take my word for it. Here's a few minutes of combat footage, followed up with what I believe was supposed to be a boss battle.
From HR would like to remind you that if your personal data has changed since the previous pay cycle, please contact him immediately.
Stop hiding, Morgan. Your head's already on the chopping block. You just haven't realized it.
Chance of getting off the station.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when you structure your game around a glorified caulking gun. There is no jump dodging, there is no strafing, there is no urgency, and I think that is the problem with Prey, is that there is no urgency in its design. It is very much a spacewalk simulator with monsters. And that's a problem because this is a game that desperately needs to be urgent. We have an alien invasion on our hands, and the fate of the world is resting right there in the barrels of your guns, and it doesn't feel like that at any point. So, who's going to enjoy this game and who's not going to enjoy it? Well, if you're completely new to shooters, I think at a discount this is a reasonable entry point. And I say that because it's not going to frustrate you with tons of aggressive mobs. It's not going to force you into some of the very difficult boss battles that we see in most proper shooters. This is going to be something where you spawn into the level and you shoot things and they die. Okay? And that's pretty much it. If, on the other hand, you're the type of person who plays Doom on Nightmare Mode or Ultra Nightmare Mode, because those modes are fun, well, you're going to find out that this game is about 2 rounds shy of an empty clip. Wait for the discount or pass on it entirely. You've been watching Hard Mode. Thank you for subscribing.